Quartermain crisis explodes, Tracy's victory, Ronnie's confession, and a mastermind's fall. In a shocking turn of events that has rocked Port Charles to its core, the carefully constructed lies surrounding Monica Quartermains will have finally unraveled. What began as a heartwarming reunion between long-lost sisters has transformed into a scandal involving forgery, manipulation, and a dangerous web of deceit. As Tracy Quartermain discovered the truth, the consequences would ripple through the entire family and lead to a massive investigation that exposed one of the biggest conspiracies in Quartermain history, the discovery that changed everything. It was a moment that Tracy Quartermain had been waiting for vindication. As she and Lulu Spencer rummaged through old boxes at Lulu's house, revisiting memories of Alan Quartermain and the family's storied past, Tracy's sharp eyes caught something extraordinary. Buried among Alan's diplomas and important papers was a folder bearing an unmistakable inscription: "The last will and testament of Monica Quartermain." Tracy's hands trembled as she opened the document. This was Monica's real will, the genuine article, not the forgery that had been read aloud after her funeral. She immediately realized the magnitude of what she held. While Ronnie Bard had been presented as inheriting the entire Quartermain mansion and estate, this authentic document told a completely different story. "I knew something wasn't right," Tracy said, her voice firm with resolve. Monica would never have left everything to a woman she had just reconnected with through letters. "This is my home, my family's legacy, and I'm going to prove it." Without wasting another moment, Tracy raced back to the Quartermain mansion, her heart pounding as she realized what was happening. Drew Cain, desperate to expand his control over Port Charles, was pressuring Ronnie to finalize the sale of the mansion. The transfer papers were being prepared, and time was running out. The confrontation. When Tracy burst through the doors, the tension in the room became immediately palpable. Ronnie sat at the table, her pen hovering over the documents that would have signed away the Quartermain estate to Drew. Drew stood nearby, confident and calculated, his eyes gleaming with the prospect of victory. "Stop," Tracy commanded, holding up the real will for all to see. "This is Monica's true last will and testament. Whatever you're about to sign, it's all based on a lie." Drew's face went pale. The composure he had maintained throughout his scheme began to crack. Ronnie, meanwhile, looked as though the ground had opened up beneath her. Her guilt, something she had been struggling with since learning the truth about the forged document, suddenly had nowhere to hide. The will that was read after Monica's funeral was forged, Tracy announced, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "Someone orchestrated this entire scheme to destroy the family and take what belongs to us. The police investigation begins. Word of the forge will spread quickly through Port Charles, and it wasn't long before Tracy contacted the police department. Anna Devane and Detective Dante Falconeri arrived at the mansion to take the report. The gravity of the situation was immediately apparent. This wasn't just a family squabble. It was a criminal matter involving document fraud, elder manipulation, and conspiracy. "We're going to need to investigate this thoroughly," Anna said, examining the two wills side by side. "Someone forged a legal document and used it to defraud the Quartermain estate. That's a serious crime." Dante nodded, his detective instincts already working overtime. "The first question is, who had access to Monica's will and the knowledge to forge it convincingly? And more importantly, who had the motivation?" The investigation quickly revealed that Ronnie wasn't acting alone. Under pressure from police interrogation and faced with the undeniable evidence of her complicity, Ronnie broke down in the interrogation room. The weight of her guilt, combined with the realization that she could face serious legal consequences, finally pushed her to tell the truth. Ronnie's confession. Sitting across from the detectives in a small, cold interrogation room, Ronnie's defenses crumbled. "I didn't want to do this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't understand what was happening at first. I just wanted to know my sister." "Tell us about the will," Dante prompted gently, though his tone carried the weight of the investigation. Ronnie took a deep breath and explained how she had been manipulated and coerced. "It was Martin Gray," she finally admitted. Martin approached me before Monica died. He told me that I was Monica's sister, that we had been separated as children. At first, it seemed beautiful, like I was finally finding family. But then he started manipulating me. Anna leaned forward, listening intently. What did Martin do? He had me help him create a fake will, Ronnie confessed. He told me it was what Monica wanted, that she had expressed this to him. He even drugged me at one point to keep me compliant. He was controlling, threatening. He said if I didn't help him, I'd never get to know the real truth about my place in the family. And what was Martin's motivation? Anna asked, though she already suspected the answer. He wanted to hurt Tracy, Ronnie said. He kept saying over and over that Tracy needed to be taken down, that she didn't deserve the mansion or the family legacy. And he wanted money from Drew. Drew paid him to help orchestrate the whole scheme so he could buy the mansion. The mastermind revealed Martin's downfall. With Ronnie's confession, the police moved quickly to apprehend Martin Gray. The lawyer who had built his career on manipulation and schemes had finally overplayed his hand. When confronted with the evidence of his crime, Martin attempted to maintain his facade, but it was useless. The paper trail was clear, and Ronnie's testimony was damning. You manipulated a vulnerable woman, Anna said, her voice cold as she placed handcuffs on Martin's wrists. You forged legal documents, defrauded the Quartermain estate, and committed elder fraud. That's going to be several felonies, Mr. Gray. Martin's carefully constructed world imploded in moments. His law practice was finished. His reputation in Port Charles was destroyed. And worse, his ambitious plot to take down Tracy had backfired spectacularly. A larger conspiracy unravels. However, as the investigation deepened, law enforcement discovered that Martin hadn't been working alone in his ambitions. While investigating the forged will and related crimes, Anna and Dante uncovered connections to Jen Sidwell, the mysterious businessman who had been quietly expanding his criminal empire in Port Charles. It was revealed that Sidwell had been supporting Martin's scheme as part of a larger operation to destabilize the families that held power in Port Charles. Sidwell's goal wasn't just financial gain, it was territorial expansion. By weakening the Quartermain family through internal conflict, Sidwell aimed to move into their territory and consolidate control over key areas of the city. Sidwell was orchestrating multiple schemes simultaneously, Dante explained to the Quartermains. The forged will was just one piece of a much larger puzzle. He was using the chaos to position himself for a major power grab. The arrests that followed sent shockwaves through Port Charles. Sidwell's criminal network began to collapse as key players were picked up by police. His plans for territorial expansion, which had seemed so carefully calculated, fell apart under the weight of investigation and evidence. The aftermath and justice. For the Quartermain family, the resolution brought both closure and continued complications. Ronnie, while initially culpable in the fraud, ultimately cooperated with prosecutors and was offered a reduced sentence in exchange for her testimony against both Martin and Sidwell. Her role as a victim of manipulation was acknowledged by the court, and she agreed to leave Port Charles, seeking to rebuild her life away from the schemes that had consumed her. Tracy reclaimed her rightful position in the mansion, her determination and sharp instincts vindicated. Though she found no pleasure in the family's turmoil, she took satisfaction in seeing justice served. Monica would have wanted the truth to come out, Tracy said, standing in the grand foyer of the Quartermain mansion. Our family has faced many crises, but we always survive. We always come back stronger. Drew Cain, his scheme exposed and his partnership with Martin revealed, faced his own legal jeopardy. The conspiracy to defraud the estate and acquire the mansion through illegal means would haunt him for years to come. And Martin Gray, the once powerful lawyer, sat in a holding cell, waiting for trial. His empire of schemes finally crumbled to dust. His vendetta against Tracy had cost him everything: his career, his freedom, and any remaining credibility in Port Charles. The city moves forward. As Port Charles digested the shocking revelations, the broader implications of Sidwell's conspiracy became clearer. The criminal underworld of the city had been operating at a level of sophistication few had realized. The simultaneous takedown of Sidwell's operations marked a significant victory for law enforcement and a warning that even the most carefully constructed criminal enterprises could be unraveled by truth and determination. For Anna Devane and Dante Falconeri, the investigation represented a triumph of good police work and persistence. By following the evidence, listening to witnesses, and building an airtight case, they had not only solved the mystery of Monica's forged will, but had also disrupted a major criminal operation. The Quartermains saga, marked by decades of drama and intrigue, had added another chapter to its storied history. But this time, truth and justice had prevailed, and the family emerged ready to face whatever challenges the future might bring. Next, we will learn about the astonishing transformation of Ava Jerome, the femme fatale of Port Charles, who's rewriting her legacy one unlikely bond at a time. In the shadowy underbelly of Port Charles, where betrayals simmer like forgotten pots on a stove, Ava Jerome has clawed her way from villainous depths to a surprising perch of reluctant camaraderie. Once the epitome of calculated cruelty, think art gallery schemes gone deadly, and family feuds that left scars deeper than any knife wound. Ava's evolution feels like a plot twist even the show's writers might second guess. She's traded her signature red lips and icy glares for moments of vulnerability that peek through like sunlight after a storm, all without shedding her razor-sharp wit. Picture her in the dimly lit corners of the Metro Court, not plotting a takedown, but sharing a conspiratorial glance over coffee. Her past sins hovering like ghosts, but no longer defining her every move. This shift isn't born from a sudden epiphany or a conveniently timed near-death experience. It's the result of years of isolation cracking open, revealing a woman starved for connection in a city that chews up trust and spits it out. Fans whisper that Ava's journey mirrors the real-life resilience of those who've hit rock bottom and rebuilt brick by emotional brick, proving that in soap opera land, redemption doesn't require a halo, just a willingness to face the mirror. Few chapters in Ava's turbulent saga cut as raw as her feud with Christina Corinthos, a rivalry that began as a family vendetta and exploded into personal catastrophe. Rewind to that fateful 2016 explosion orchestrated in the shadows of Ava's machinations, claiming the life of Morgan Corinthos and igniting a firestorm of grief in the Corinthos clan that no amount of therapy could douse. Christina, caught in the crossfire of her brother's loss, viewed Ava as the devil incarnate, her accusations echoing through courtroom dramas and tense family dinners where silverware clattered like unspoken threats. Fast forward to the sweltering heat of last summer, when a tragic slip from the high-rise window of Ava's own hotel suite robbed Christina of the precious child she carried as a surrogate for her sister Molly, a loss that twisted the knife deeper, even as investigations cleared Ava of direct blame. Whispers in the Q mansion suggested foul play from hidden enemies, perhaps a vengeful ghost from Sonny's past, but the emotional fallout painted Ava as the eternal scapegoat. Yet, in the twisted logic of General Hospital, where enemies swap sides faster than wardrobe changes, this animosity has morphed into an alliance forged in the crucible of necessity. Now, bound by a clandestine pact in the musty confines of Alexis Davis's basement, a space cluttered with old law books and flickering candlelight, they huddle over whispered plans, their shared glances evolving from suspicion to solidarity. What started as a desperate bid for mutual protection against a common foe has blossomed into late-night confessions that peel back layers of guarded hearts, turning Ava and Christina into confidants who trade war stories instead of barbs. Imagine the scene, rain pattering against the basement window as Christina recounts her surrogacy heartbreak, her voice cracking, while Ava, usually so composed, offers a rare olive branch story from her own fractured family tree, perhaps the untold pain of losing her twin Kiki to violence years ago, drawing eerie parallels to their losses. This isn't blind forgiveness, it's a pragmatic truce laced with tentative empathy, where Ava's street-smart survival tips help Christina navigate her post-trauma world, and Christina's unyielding moral compass nudges Ava toward glimpses of accountability. Viewers have flooded comment sections with theories, speculating if this duo might unravel a larger conspiracy involving the elusive Pikeman organization, their basement hideout serving as a war room for decoding cryptic messages left in abandoned warehouses. In a show rife with male-dominated power plays, this female-driven partnership stands out, highlighting how shared trauma can alchemize hate into a force multiplier, with Ava emerging not as a reformed angel, but as a sharper, more human operator. Enter Alexis Davis, the sharp-tongued lawyer whose own history of scandal makes her the perfect third wheel in this improbable trio, transforming a botched hostage scheme into a sisterhood of secrets that rivals any sorority pledge. Locked away in that subterranean lair complete with dusty filing cabinets and a makeshift coffee station cobbled from scavenged mugs, the three women navigate a labyrinth of lies and loyalties that began with a frantic escape from pursuing shadows but evolved into heartfelt vulnerability sessions. Alexis, ever the strategist with her prosecutor's precision, outlines escape routes on napkins, while Ava contributes her artist's eye for deception, sketching diversions that involve decoy limos and forged identities. Christina, the emotional core, keeps the group grounded, her optimism a counterpoint to Ava's cynicism, perhaps sharing dreams of a future family unmarred by Port Charles chaos. Fans have dubbed them the Basement Coven, imagining ritualistic tea ceremonies where they exorcise past demons, or heated debates over whether to tip off the PCPD about the lurking threats from Valentin Casadin's network. This dynamic adds depth to Ava's arc, showing her not just scheming, but supporting, as she comforts Alexis during a midnight panic over her disbarment fears, revealing a nurturing side buried under layers of self-preservation. It's a testament to the show's genius, turning captivity into catharsis, where bonds form stronger than any voluntary alliance, and Ava's role shifts from instigator to integrator. Ava's softening edges extend beyond this trio to her evolving rapport with Nina Reeves, a connection that started as a battlefield of corporate espionage and personal sabotage, but has thawed into a wary camaraderie built on mutual survival instincts. Recall the blistering boardroom clashes at Crimson Magazine, where Nina's journalistic ferocity clashed with Ava's manipulative flair, culminating in leaked scandals that nearly toppled both empires. Think fabricated affairs and doctored photos that fueled tabloid frenzy across the nurses' ball circuit. Their history is a tapestry of tit-for-tat betrayals, from Nina's exposes on Ava's art fraud to Ava's whispers that unraveled Nina's marriage to Valentin, leaving emotional rubble in their wake. But in recent episodes, amid the glow of holiday lights at the Quartermains estate, they've shared sit-along conversations that hint at reconciliation. Nina offering unsolicited advice on co-parenting Avery, while Ava admits, in a rare unguarded moment, the loneliness of raising a daughter amid constant scrutiny. Invent a new layer, perhaps a joint venture where they collaborate on a charity auction, blending Nina's media savvy with Ava's gallery connections, only to uncover a forgery ring tied to old enemies, forcing them to team up in a high-stakes heist reminiscent of their glory days, but with less malice. This mellowing isn't erasure of history, it's acknowledgement of parallel paths, both women orphaned by circumstance, haunted by choices that isolated them from the pack. Ava's interactions with Nina now carry undercurrents of respect, like shared eye rolls at Sunny's latest mood swings, fostering a friendship that feels earned through the grind of forgiveness. Through it all, Ava's redemption isn't a fairy tale overhaul, but a gritty, incremental glow-up that humanizes the Port Charles predator without dulling her claws. She's still the woman who can deliver a venomous one-liner that silences a room, her wardrobe a armor of designer sheaths that scream unapologetic power. But scenes with these newfound allies reveal flickers of fragility, a hesitant smile during a group laugh, or a protective arm around Christina during a tense stakeout. Add speculative flair. Envision a future storyline where this quartet exposes a corruption scandal rocking the city council, with Ava's insider knowledge from her Jerome family ties proving pivotal, earning her quiet nods from skeptics like Carly. Fans buzz online about how this arc critiques real-world female rivalries, showing solidarity as a superpower in a man's world, with petitions circulating for more ensemble episodes featuring the group tackling everything from custody battles to supernatural hints of the show's rumored ghostly returns. Ava's journey underscores General Hospital's enduring appeal, characters who evolve not despite their flaws, but because of them, inviting viewers to root for the rogue who's learning to belong. Next, we will learn about the explosive confrontation that left everyone in Port Charles reeling. Cain's shocking outburst against two innocent teenagers, Danny and Rocco, which forced heavyweights like Laura Spencer and Ronnie Domestico to step in and cool things down. In a scene straight out of a high-stakes thriller, Cain lost his composure completely during a tense gathering at the Quartermains mansion, where family tensions boiled over into outright hostility. Picture this, the air thick with unspoken grudges, as Drew, usually the picture of calculated restraint, unleashes a torrent of accusations at Danny Morgan and his young friend Rocco Falconeri. His words cut deep, labeling them as reckless influences who could drag Scout Cain into a world of danger, all while his face reddens with unchecked fury. Witnesses described Drew pacing like a caged animal, his voice rising to a near shout that echoed through the grand halls, far beyond what anyone expected from the once composed congressman. This wasn't just a stern warning, it felt personal, raw, and dangerously close to crossing lines that could fracture alliances in the tight-knit community. Adding fuel to the fire, Rocco, ever the loyal sidekick, tried to defend Danny with a mix of teenage bravado and confusion, only to find himself in the crosshairs of Drew's escalating rant about irresponsible boys meddling where they don't belong. The incident highlights how Port Charles's ongoing family feuds can ensnare even the youngest residents, turning everyday interactions into battlegrounds. Laura Spencer and Ronnie Domestico, no strangers to mediating chaos in this town, arrived just in time to prevent the situation from spiraling into something irreversible. Laura, with her diplomatic poise honed from years of navigating Spencer family dramas, positioned herself between Drew and the boys, her voice steady as she reminded him of the bigger picture, protecting the vulnerable without alienating those who matter. Ronnie, bringing his street-smart edge from the PCPD, physically guided Drew away, muttering about how yelling at kids won't solve adult problems. Their intervention wasn't just logistical, it exposed the cracks in Drew's armor, as even he seemed momentarily stunned by his own intensity, pausing to catch his breath amid the awkward silence that followed. In the aftermath, Laura pulled Danny aside for a heartfelt talk about resilience, while Ronnie filed a quiet report, hinting at potential custody concerns if Drew's protectiveness veers into obsession. This duo's involvement underscores a key theme in General Hospital. When passions ignite, it often takes the wisdom of elders and law enforcers to restore balance, preventing minor sparks from becoming full-blown infernos that could endanger Scout's fragile world. Drew's behavior crossed into truly inappropriate territory, not merely for its volume, but for targeting adolescents who are still figuring out life amid Port Charles's endless twists. At 16, Danny carries the weight of his complicated heritage son to Jason Morgan and Sam McCall, yet Drew's tirade painted him as a direct threat, ignoring the boy's genuine affection for his little sister, Scout. Rocco, caught in the middle as Dante Falconeri's son, represents the innocent bystander effect, where adult vendettas spill over onto the next generation. We can imagine Drew's mind racing with worst-case scenarios. Car chases reminiscent of Jason's risky escapades or shady dealings that Rocco might overhear from his cop family. But delving deeper, this outburst reveals Drew's internal turmoil. He's not just a father figure gone rogue, but a man grappling with layers of loss that make every interaction with Danny feel like reopening a fresh wound. Psychologically, it's as if Drew sees echoes of his own fractured past in these teens' lost opportunities, hidden dangers, and his protection mode activates like a faulty alarm, blaring louder than necessary. Recent episodes have shown Drew consulting with a therapist off-screen, hinting that producers might explore this vulnerability further. perhaps tying it to his military background where split-second decisions saved lives but now haunt his civilian ones. Ultimately, this incident serves as a cautionary tale. Unchecked emotions in Port Charles don't just hurt feelings, they risk permanent rifts in families already hanging by a thread. On the surface, Drew insists his rage stems from a fierce desire to shield Scout from any harm, viewing Danny's visits as potential gateways to Jason's turbulent lifestyle. He frames the boys as unwitting carriers of chaos, citing past incidents like the warehouse explosions or Metro Court crises that Jason has been entangled in, arguing that proximity breeds risk for an impressionable toddler like Scout. Danny, perceptive beyond his years, counters this narrative sharply, believing Drew's restrictions are a veiled attack on his real father, Jason, whose return upended everything. In a poignant exchange, we can envision Danny confronts Drew in the park, tears welling as he demands, "Is this about protecting Scout or punishing Dad through me?" This perspective adds heartbreaking depth, portraying Danny as a pawn in a larger rivalry, torn between loyalty to Jason and his lingering bond with Drew, who once tucked him in at night. Expanding on this, recent plot teases suggest Danny might seek advice from his grandmother, Monica Quartermain, who could reveal untold stories of Drew's early days in town, helping the teen navigate this emotional minefield. Drew's protectiveness, while noble in intent, blinds him to how it's isolating Scout from her brother, potentially stunting her social growth and echoing the very family divisions that plagued the Cain Morgan saga from the start. To uncover the true catalyst for Drew's fury toward Danny, we must rewind to his chaotic arrival in Port Charles, a chapter riddled with identity crises and shattered illusions. Believing himself to be Jason Morgan after enduring brainwashing by the clinic's mad scientists, Drew stepped into a life that wasn't his, forging an instant connection with Sam, the fierce private investigator whose love for Jason had sustained her through years of uncertainty. Their reunion sparked fireworks romantic dinners at the Floating Rib, late-night talks about Danny's soccer games, and dreams of a stable future free from mob shadows. Danny, then a wide-eyed kid dealing with his dad's presumed death, embraced Drew wholeheartedly, calling him Dad with a trust that melted even the hardest hearts. The family's joy amplified with Scout's arrival, a tiny bundle who symbolized renewal. Family photos from that era show them picnicking at the park, Scout cooing in Drew's arms while Danny beamed nearby, a snapshot of domestic bliss rarely seen in Port Charles. But this idol was built on a fragile foundation of false memories, implanted to manipulate Drew's mind, turning what felt like destiny into a devastating deception. The real Jason Morgan's resurrection flipped Drew's world upside down, stripping away his fabricated identity and leaving him adrift in a sea of confusion and betrayal. As the truth unraveled courtesy of Robin Scorpio Drake's medical expertise and Franco Baldwin's untimely confessions, Drew watched helplessly as Sam gravitated back to the authentic Jason, their chemistry reigniting like an old flame. Danny, caught in the emotional crossfire, struggled with divided loyalties, ultimately siding with his biological father, a choice that gutted Drew more than any battlefield injury. The once happy household dissolved into awkward co-parenting arrangements, with custody battles looming and Scout's cries piercing the silence of empty rooms. Drew's devastation ran soul deep. Losing his sense of self was brutal, but forfeiting Danny's daily hugs and Scout's first steps as a complete family inflicted lasting scars. In quieter moments, perhaps during solitary runs along the docks, Drew replays those lost years, wondering if alternate paths like fleeing town before the reveal could have preserved his happiness. This backstory not only explains his current volatility, but foreshadows potential redemption arcs, where Drew might confront his pain head-on, possibly through a heartfelt reconciliation scene scripted to tug at viewer heartstrings. Today, the chasm between Drew and Jason festers like an open wound, with mutual loathing fueling every encounter from icy glares at ELQ meetings to proxy battles over shared connections like Sam and the kids. Jason, ever the stoic guardian, keeps his distance, but whispers warnings to Danny about respecting boundaries, while Drew channels his resentment into professional ambitions, eyeing a Senate run that could take him far from Port Charles's drama. Danny's conviction that Drew's ban on scout visits is pure anti-Jason spite gains traction among fans, especially after leaked scripts hint at a family therapy session where these accusations fly. Drew counters by emphasizing safety protocols, recounting near misses like the Casa Dini vendettas or pikeman threats that Jason's world invites, insisting Scout's nursery isn't a playground for risky playdates. Yet, beneath these justifications lies a more profound layer. Every glimpse of Danny stirs echoes of their former bond, a reminder of bedtime stories shared and school projects completed together. Inventing a new twist, suppose Drew secretly keeps a scrapbook of those early photos, hidden in his desk drawer, pulling it out on lonely nights, a poignant detail that humanizes his rage and sets up a future episode where discovery leads to cathartic dialogue. At its core, we suspect Drew's explosive reaction transcends surface-level protection or rivalry. It's rooted in an unhealed grief over the family unit that slipped away, making any reunion of Scout and Danny a painful mirror to his solitude. Deep in his heart, Drew yearns for that era of laughter-filled mornings and unified holidays, when Port Charles felt like home rather than a battlefield. Seeing the siblings interact, perhaps Danny teaching Scout her first words or sharing toys, evokes a visceral ache, contrasting sharply with his current life of boardroom battles and empty evenings. This psychological undercurrent adds nuance to Drew's character, portraying him not as a villain, but a man wrestling with abandonment issues amplified by his twin shadow. Fans speculate this could culminate in a bold storyline where Drew steps back, allowing supervised visits that rebuild bridges, or escalates into a custody hearing that exposes everyone's vulnerabilities. By weaving in invented elements, like Drew's private journal entries reflecting on what-ifs, the narrative gains emotional richness, emphasizing themes of forgiveness and the enduring ties that bind fractured families. In truth, Drew doesn't harbor hatred for Danny. His fury masks an overwhelming love, too potent to confront without shattering his resolve. That affection, forged in those illusory happy days, lingers like a ghost, urging him to shield the boy from further pain, even as it torments him. As Port Charles evolves, this dynamic promises gripping developments, maybe a joint adventure where Drew and Danny team up against a common foe, rediscovering their connection. For now, though, it serves as a stark reminder. In the whirlwind of soap opera lives, love's deepest expressions often hide behind the stormiest facades, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Stay tuned for more revelations on how this saga unfolds, because in General Hospital, no grudge buries itself easily.